Hello YouTube, Matt here from the Bluebell Model Railway channel, here with a follow-up video of the Bulleid leader from KR Models. Firstly, thank you for all the comments, likes and also a few dislikes on the previous video, which is absolutely fine by me. It lets me know I'm doing a good job and being reasonably fair. Now of course this model has been beset with problems, errors, which all adds up into a bit of a mess. But to be fair to KR, it sort of sits in between their range at the moment in terms of what's been good and what's been bad. So it's sort of in the middle of the sort of GT3 and the FL. But on this video, I put up a small sort of questionnaire in terms of does anyone want to see in terms of improvements, what I can do and what I can add to it to make it a little bit more well, tolerable, shall we say. So with that said, I'm going to outline what I'm going to do from front to back and then follow it up with a few videos, shorter videos, to sort of show you what I'm going to do. So I'll start at the front, work our way back, and as you can already see, I've kind of already started on a few areas, but let's get into it. So starting on the front end of this model, as you can see I have already painted the buffer beam red because it was really annoying me. I've also added a screw link coupling. So the buffer beam itself is all one piece with buffer beam detail added on separately, so the buffers and the hook, coupling hook. So the coupling hook in the middle you can remove. You can get a sharp knife behind it and sort of ease it out. It's only stuck into a small square hole, and you can sort of change that to say a Hornby one or a Cura scale. I've got an etched one which I had laying around from a kit from a few years ago. I've got one for each end, so I've sort of made that up, sold that together, and just put that in for show at the moment. The colour I've painted the buffer beam is a blood red, which works with the black backing quite well. The other things I'm going to add to the front is either a steam or a vacuum pipe. We've only got one pipe on the front of this, so an additional one would finish it off quite nicely. Moving back beyond that, the oscillating valve gear is quite poorly represented on this model. It's also, looking at diagrams, a little bit too far forwards. There's so much space behind that part as well, but it also acts on the top as a sort of balance in terms of hitting the top of the chassis or bottom of the chassis to keep it from rising up and going down, so keeping it reasonably in place. So I'm going to 3D print some additional detail, including a whole new front face for that oscillating valve gear, and also have a variation on it so you can have a cover on the front as well. So you can either have a covered version or one with all the motion showing. Moving back from that, I'm going to completely redo the number, so the number is going to be gone. I would generally like to completely repaint this model, but it's a big job and I just don't have the time. Maybe one day I'll get around to it. The body shell itself, I'm not going to do too much alterations. I wish I could. I might move the handrail on the cab door. That needs to be more inboard of the actual inner side of the door, so I might going to do that. I'm going to paint the whistle, unless I find a brass one somewhere. Also going to do some work on the coal bunker and also the water area. You can see the coal loads removed at the moment and been painted black in the base. I'm going to paint the water space as well and have a look at maybe making a pipe that runs from front to back. The water treatment tank, which is on top, which I couldn't remember the name of in the review, it's also in the wrong place. It's more over to the left than the right. And I'm also going to add that sort of triangular tank on top as well. So I don't know if that's part of the water treatment, but I guess it might be. But it also seems to move on some photos. Sometimes it's directly behind the tank, sometimes it's to the right. from various photos I've got anyway, so I might do that as well. The coal loader I'm going to completely replace with real coal, which I've got a black plastic sort of plastic card cut out ready to go in there and have some coal glued to it. The wheels is a bit of a tricky one. I was going to look at Alan Gibson and replace the middle with a 3D printed insert, but what I might do, considering costs and how much this model is, I might just 3D print some fillers to go within the wheel in the teardrop, which should be full of sort of detail in terms of backing and also an additional small cutout. So that's what I'm going to do in this area for now, and I'm going to move my way back and have a look at what else I can do. So before I start working on the bogies themselves, as you already will probably know, I've already started working on this, so I've already got one off, so I know how to actually get them off. So the body shell's already been removed, but I'll just talk you through the process because it's not as straightforward as you think. So basically the body shell is clipped on with 4 clips. So the clipping points are here and here, so there's one on either side, and you can just slide basically a credit card or something thin behind the body shell and release it and pull it up. Once you have removed the body shell, you'll come into contact with this rather large PCB, and this is secured by 3 screws, 3 Phillips screws. There's 2 here and 1 at this end. You need to remove them and then very carefully pull away the PCB, revealing the motor, drive shafts and the top of the gearbox housings for the bogies. Wires are very short, so do be careful. It's mainly caused by the wires at each end on the actual cabs, so it's a little bit difficult to move them away. Just unclip these and it should give you a little bit more room. But I'm going to zoom in a little bit onto the top of the drive shaft and the casing on top of the gearbox, because that's where we need to work. You basically have to take this clip off the gearbox tower, which is very difficult to do because there's not much space, and it's basically pivoting not just on a pin on the underside of the body shell, but also these tangs on the clip itself, and it's not very robust. It feels quite hard plastic, but I have seen 1 or 2 of these broken, which isn't great, but the clip is a right pain to get off, so it's quite easy to damage, so be very careful if you ever try and take the bogie off. So once you've done that and actually survived and this is in one piece, you can then take the bogie off. Now I thought it would be a great idea to take the keeper plate off, which you can see in the bottom of here. Now as you can see, the whole keeper plate and the bogie surround is all in one piece, so you're taking the whole thing off, leaving the bogie tower here. But this is probably better, so you can actually paint the buffer beam here and work on the buffer beam. As you can see, I've already fitted my screw link coupling, although not painted or decorated in any way. I painted the buffer beam, which I did quite a while ago, but I'm also going to put some additional casting either steam heat pipes or vacuum pipes on the front. Again, that needs to be painted and fitted, but I'm also going to work on the oscillating valve gear, shall we say, and I've got another little thing for that at some point. But once you've got round taking this off, you can then get to the actual bogie tower. You can see underneath all the gears and things underneath, which is lovely, and there's a bit of lubrication in there, but you might want to clean it out and put some different grease on. I've quite heard it's a little bit tough and difficult, and it does sort of affect the running a little bit, whatever grease they've used, so you might want to clean that out and put some different stuff in. But the main reason I've taken all that off is to get to these oddly looking wheels which aren't quite correct, and you can see all the way through the teardrop there in the actual casting. The casting itself is okay, but these really should be infilled with a backing. So I've been busy on the computer and I've designed, these aren't very clean, but these are inserts for those teardrops, and these are all 3D printed of course. There's 8 per wheel, so there's about 48 openings to do if you're feeling adventurous. And I'm fitting them in from the front with a little bit of glue around the outside just to hold them in place. And what I might do is then paint the wheel faces as well. Now I've done one already, which you can see just here, and it does look quite a lot better. I don't think the holes are quite the right size, but in the teardrops, but they do look quite a lot better. And as I say, with all this painted, it will certainly look a great deal better. So that's basically stage 1 of what I'm going to do with these bogies. And we'll go on to the next section, which is basically the valve gear, and maybe a before and after shot of these wheels as well. And here is a completed set ready for the paint shop. Now the painting takes place in 3 stages: some cleaning, roughening up the surface, and then it will go into primer. I'm using some Halford's grey primer as a base, and then on to Halford's satin black paint, which is the spray paint. That's left to dry for 24 hours, and this is how it should look. So here we see a before on the right and an after on the left, with all the 3D printed inserts into the teardrop shaped holes, which should be filled, but unfortunately KR seemingly have missed this out completely. And also I have painted the wheel faces as well, compared to the ones on the right, which are just bare metal. As you can see, quite a big difference. Looks a little bit better than it did. And now we'll move on to the buffer beam detail. So here we are on the front of the bogies themselves, and these have been removed from the actual wheel sets. Of course, these are a bit weird. The Bogie surrounds us are all one plastic piece, including the keeper plate as seen before, but I'll just show you again. There you go, keeper plate in the background. This all clips around the actual bogie itself, but do be careful because they are quite fragile. So you've seen a little bit on the front end already. So what I have done so far is painted them red on the front of the buffer beam. It's quite straightforward, a sort of blood or warning red you can buy anywhere really from any model shop, but also lacking of details and things. So going from the buffer beam backwards, obviously replacing the coupling hook in the centre here. It's just sort of glued in push fit on the old style coupling hook, so if you just get a sharp knife or something just to put behind and pull out, they will come out quite easily. It's also missing the steam heat pipe. On some runs it did have it, on other runs it didn't, and also it had pipework going from the bogie upwards to the inside of the cab, which I'm still a little bit undecided at the moment whether to model that or not, but we'll see. But you can see on the right here I've already replaced the coupling hook with a 3-link screw link coupling hook from a kit that I don't know where it came from. You can get them from various places. I think you can get them from RT Models, you can get them from Wizard, but also if you want some ready to run stuff to fit in the square hole on this one, you can either use a Hornby or an Acura scale, one from a detailing pack which you can also buy as an accessory separately. On the steam heat pipe I've been through my castings and I've used 551L rather, which I've purchased from Wizard Models. This is just a white metal casting. You can get these separately. I think I got some left over from sort of an air pipe and also steam heat pipe pack for a Westinghouse fitted locomotive. You can also buy them separately as UC005. I think the other one is UC010 or something like that. And once painted up, they'll look very nice indeed, and that should do quite well. But also on the bogies themselves, what we're missing is on the front end here. If I just turn it towards the camera, you can see underneath we've got this sort of opening where the NEM pocket is. Now on the prototype there should be some guard irons coming down from the side of this and splaying out slightly just to be in line with the wheel. Again, KR models have missed this completely, so I'm going to have to make that out of brass, which you'll see in the next section, and then we'll move back a bit further and tackle the oscillating valve gear area. So here we have the underside of the bogies, which we're working on at the moment. So in this image you can see in front of us we have one now with brake rigging and one behind with not, or without. So the brake rigging here is used up of mainly trains etched brake rigging, so yokes, etc. So I've used sort of a diamond shaped rigging on the front. Still need to get an extra one for the rear. This is all joined together with 0.45mm brass wire. Can use 0.5, just about fits, and that needs soldering together. The brakes themselves, or the brake hangers, have been drilled with a pin vise and with a drill, a twist grip drill of 0.5 of a mil, which went quite well when I found a sharp one that was. So I've done that on this one, still need to start on the second one. This is part one of the detailing of the underside. I still need to add some guard irons to the front here, which I'll go through next. And once we've done both bogies, we'll then move to the top side and concentrate on the oscillating valve gear. So in this next section of detailing your KR model's Bulleid leader, we're going to add some guard irons. Now this model never had any when it first arrived, and they weren't on any CADs either, so they obviously were missed during the checking phase of CADs or just didn't bother. So I 3D printed some guard irons which we fitted to the model. There'll be 4 in a pack, so 2 for each end, and they'll be fitted to the front of the bogie and just behind this frame here. So you can order these separately or as part of the whole lot of detailing parts that you can buy off eBay or Made Me. And all you'll need is some glue and some tweezers, and that's all you need. I'm going to use some varnish as well just to seal them in behind this frame at the front. So if you look behind, you can see a nice flat area just behind the buffer beam at either side of the NEM pocket. And there's a nice flat ledge just to glue them in place there, which will always help. So these will come mounted on their sprues, as you've seen before, which you'll need some flush cutters as well, like these, just to remove them. You can paint them before removal, it might help as well. I've just painted them satin black, and you can go over them with some matte black if necessary. You'll need a bit of glue, some super glue possibly, and I'm just going to add a little dot to the undersides once you've filed and cleaned up the underside of these, or the mounting points, to make them nice and flat before mounting. And as I say, you'll need some tweezers just to hold them and put them into place. So without further ado, let's get back onto it and I'll show you how to do those. So here we are back on the workbench and about to add the guard iron to the front of your bogie, of your Bulleid leader. So I'm going to use the needle file here just to clean off the underside of the guard iron, just where all the support structure has been. And I'm also going to add a slight angle, as the front here angles slightly forwards for some bizarre reason. So I'm going to just add a slight angle to the surface so it leans forwards into the buffer beam itself. Just a few passes and it should clean up pretty nicely. There you go. And you can see the flat edge there, which needs to face forwards, with the curved back facing back towards the wheels. Just cleaning off the dust, and we're going to use this cocktail stick here to add the glue to the surfaces where I need them. So just going to add a little bit of super glue to the cocktail stick, or the toothpick if you're in America, and just going to add some glue to the flat surface here. You can already see I've added the other guard iron to the other side, and just a little bit of glue up the front or back surface of the buffer beam to where I'm going to attach the guard iron. I'm now going to use some tweezers just to hold the guard iron and try and put it into position. It's going to be quite fiddly due to me holding the bogie and also holding the guard iron. So just going to place it just behind the buffer beam here, and where I want it in particular is going to be quite tricky to get first time round. I'm just going to move the guard iron with the toothpick or cocktail stick, whatever you want to call it, because I want it just to be on the inside edge of the buffer beam, extended part of the buffer beam downwards. Sadly I can't quite keep it all on camera whilst keeping an eye on where I'm trying to put it, but generally I just want it on the inside edge, as of course with double O the gauge is 3.5 really millimeters, and the body shells are 4, so everything needs to be slightly more inboard, as it were. So you can see here, just trying to position the guard iron on the inside edge of the buffer beam. And what I'm going to do afterwards is I'm going to add some varnish just to seal all of this in, so it stops any gaps or anything, and just gives a better finish generally. And get back into the next part and you'll see it all complete. So we're now all stuck together and varnish and glue has dried, and you can see both guard irons are now attached to the bogie and looking very nice, and they should of course line up with the wheels themselves. So with that complete, I've also now added the screw link coupling as well, which is from a kit which you can buy online, which I'll put a link in the description. And now I'll move on to another area we can either replace or have a spare part for, which I'll show you in the next section. So in this next section of the KR Models Bulleid Leader Detailing extravaganza, We're now moving on to the buffer beam detail, or just above the buffer beam. So on the actual prototype, on the Bulleid leader itself, you can see in photos, especially front facing photos, we have two sort of lifting points either side, one here and one here, and they sort of butt up against the side of the frames of the Bogie. Now I've 3D printed 4 of these, you can see here, still on supports, which is how you will receive them. Would probably advise painting them before removing. I think that's pretty much the easier way of doing it. Otherwise, if you blast them with a spray can, then unfortunately they'll disappear into no man's land or on the carpet. So here's 4 here, and you can remove them with some flash cutters. So I haven't fitted them to this Bogie yet. I have also fitted them to the other one already. If I move them to one side, here's some I've prepared earlier in Blue Peter fashion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit them either side of the frames here, just to the front of the buffer beam. And I'll be using some satin varnish just to fix them into place. You can use super glue or any kind of glue that you wish, but I'm just going to use that just in case they get knocked off or need to move them around a little bit and reposition them. So I'm just going to remove them from the supports of this 3D print, and I will then be adding them to the running plate. So here you can see the completed front end, now with the lifting points fitted either side, and also the cover as well, which I may or may not remove, who knows. Anyway, we'll go on to the next part, which I have created for the front of the Bulleid leader, and also if you have purchased it, that is, and we'll be moving on to the guard irons, which are below the buffer beam on the front end. So taking a look at the oscillating valve gear kit, which I've dreamt up and designed and printed. You can see a Bogie in the background off KR Models Bulleid leader. This has already been fitted with some of the improvement parts, such as the guard irons and various pipe work and painted buffer beam, but also installed is the oscillating valve gear kit with its cover in place. It can be taken off, so it can show the valve gear parts as well. So as you can see, down to the right hand side of this bogie we can see the kit. So we have the 2 cylinder blocks, one for each bogie. We also have the oscillating motion here. The other one is actually fitted to this one already. And we also have the 2 covers which are unpainted. So all of this does need some painting. I would recommend, before proceeding, to paint before installing. We'll go through step by step what you need to do to put this all together. It is quite complicated, so those of you who don't want to be sawing or cutting or dremeling away at your £185 KR models leader, probably best to leave this alone. The covers will be available separately, however you will need to remove the fake oscillating motion representation, as the whole block or front face is too far forwards and there isn't enough room for everything to fit. So let's get on with it and show you step 1. So the first part of the job is to really prepare on what you need to do. So this valve gear or cylinder block, sorry, is way too far forwards for a start, so that needs to be completely removed. So what I'm going to be using today is basically going to be a disc cutter for my Dremel. We're going to set it on a low speed, and just be very careful as we go. And generally we'll need a file. A flat file will be fantastic if you have one, a needle file. And apart from that, we'll just need some glue, say super glue or something like that will be absolutely fine. And it should be pretty straightforward, fingers crossed. So it can be a bit scary working on these things, but as long as you go slowly and follow the instructions, you should be absolutely fine. I've done one of these already, so haven't screwed it up yet. So let's carry on. So as you can see from the front of here, I've already removed the fictitious valve gear from the front already for a previous video, which I've already done in regards to the valve gear cover only, which you can purchase separately. If you're wanting to do this fully, you'll need obviously the components and the kit to do this with. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use my Dremel and disc cutter to just slowly cut it down the side, leaving a bit of margin of this panel here. So just going to cut down to the running plate here. Then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to try and cut along the bottom here with a small saw or something along those lines, to just remove and keep a nice straight edge behind this panel, which is quite important for a little bit later on when we come to fit the new motion. So I'm just going to do that now with my Dremel, and I'll put some inserts in while I do so. So what I'm about to do now, as you can see, I've cut away a section just here, small section. You can just do the whole thing with a Dremel if you really wanted to, but I'm tending to not overdo it on the Dremel side of things. So I have this little small handsaw, which is not fantastic, I have to admit, but it does the job of getting in small spaces. So I'm just going to finish this side off and get through to the other side without damaging anything, including the buffer. So let's try, let's see how we get on. That's just about it. There you go, so that's one section out, and this will just need cleaning up some files and then on to the next part. So you join me here back on the bench, and you can see this area has all been tidied up with a file and a few Dremel pieces as well, so it's nice and clean and ready to fit the cylinder block, as we can see in front. So this cylinder block has already been painted before fitting, and the oscillating motion on the front has been stuck in with some varnish with a paintbrush, and it's just acrylic varnish I use just to do this. So overall this should be a very tight fit, but I would advise doing a dry fit first without any glue or anything, just to make sure it fits okay. And as I mentioned, it is a very tight fit, as you can see. So really what you want to do is just get it to where you really need it, which is just beyond where you cut the plastic away, and that should sit flush up against that piece of plastic. Make sure it's nice and straight on the top edge. It looks okay on the underside. You can see where it joins up and just goes around the NEM pocket holder. So once you're happy, you can see it fits okay. It's time for some glue. I'm just going to use a little bit of super glue on the sides, and then that should be reasonably easy to fit in place, and then it's on to the next part. So that is all now stuck in place, and just wait for the glue to dry off and head on to the next section. So you join me here back on the workbench with a more complete bogie here on the right hand side. So I basically cleaned this area up and have also fixed the cylinders in place, cleaned up and tidied the area with a bit of matte black around the running plates and also the back of the cylinders as well. So in this next point in this video, it's more about personalisation and what state you want to model your lead-in locomotive in. So you can leave it as it is with the oscillating motion showing, which you can see here, or you can model it like you can on the left hand side with the actual cover in place. The kit comes with the cover, so you can pick between fitting or non-fitting, and you can fit it in place by adding, if you want permanently, a little bit of glue to the end of the legs on the cover, or you can use a little bit of varnish, acrylic varnish, something a bit like this for example, just on the legs, which would be fine, or you can use some tacky wax as well. and the legs fit between the two sides of the cylinder chest, as it were. It's got some slightly raised sections that come out either side of the cylinders, and it slots just in between these two. So you can model that as is or with a cover. So in the next section, depending if you've purchased them or not, we'll go on to the buffer beam detail, which are the crane hoist or lifting points, which are just either side of the frames here. Hello, Matt from Vectis 3D Models here with a new kit for the Bulleid leader, of course. So on the left here we have the original Ashpan and the original moulded steam reverser, and on the right we have a new 3D printed version of said parts. So on the top right we have a new detailed Ashpan, as well as a correct and resized, as well as various additional parts to detail it with, a steam reverser. These have been researched from photos, drawings and everything I've got available to me to create something a little bit more, shall we say, in keeping with what was on the original. So the parts on the left are quite crude in terms of size as well as proportion, and also really non-existent on the detail side. The reverser's mounted in the wrong place, and it's just fresh air where it should be, apart from just a mount, which is where it's supposed to be actually stuck onto, but it isn't. So I'll be utilising that in this video. So on the right hand side you can see just in front of the Ashpan here we have a steam reverser and some 0.5mm brass wire, and also we have just in between that and the reverser we have an arm which goes into the actuator and sort of links onto the end of the 0.5mm brass wire, which all links in with what's there, which you'll see in just a moment. This pack will be available from Made Me Only, as it's kind of more detailed and specific to this model, not on eBay at all. I'm also going to put together on Made Me a whole pack, so you'll have a little bit of discount available as well if you buy the entire lot. So that's from whistles, guard irons and all that kind of thing, so the whole caboodle, as it were. So with that said, let's carry on with this detailing guide, and let's get on with the detailing on the underside. So here we have an upside down Bulleid leader from KR Models, and this one is from a friend of mine on the other side of the island who wants a bit of work and repair doing to it. As you can see, it's got a missing vacuum cylinder off the Bogie, which is not too dissimilar to my first one I received. So you can see in the centre here, you can see the Ashpan at the back, and then the reverser just in front of that, and then all the details and gubbins on the front of that as well. Now what I was alluding to in terms of bracket and where the steam reverser should be, you can just about see this, if I bring in this cocktail stick, you can see the bracket just here. If I move my cocktail stick back, there we go. It should be sitting on here or along here, and then the end of this reverser going into this box here. And then this end is supposed to be linked up to this lever just here. Now to fit the new one, you'd have to just remove the tops of these two bits here, just make this nice and flat like the rest, and then the new one will just sit along here. The reverser you can just about ease off, it's just super glued in at each end, and this Ashpan here is just held in with two pins at either end. I think with a little bit of acetone just underneath, and just soften the glue, and hopefully it will just pop off. So that's the plan, and I've already removed most of this, if it hasn't fallen off already, on my other Bulleid leader that I have in my possession at this moment in time, and I'll be fitting those bits to that once they are painted. I would recommend painting them before fitting them, and then you can weather them down when they're actually fixed on the model. So let's head over to the other leader, and I'll show you the underside of that one. So here you can see the underside of my more modified Bulleid leader here in front of us. So you can see the Ashpan is no longer present, that's already been removed. You can see the two holes, just one here and one here. This hole is for the steam reverser, there's another one just behind this block here. And I've also just smoothed out the top of the bracket along here to fix the new one too. So all the prep work has been done, sometimes by me, sometimes by itself, and it's now ready to receive the new parts. So I've used a little bit of a drill to clean out these holes, just to make sure they're clearing alright. These ones can be filled up or just left. I've just used a small Dremel just to clean off the top of this bracket, and that's all I've done. Nothing else has been done to this model. So I'll go over to the parts which have now been painted, and I will be fitting those very shortly. So before we start fitting things to our KR Models Bulleid leader, I'm going to just drill out the hole in the centre of the steam reverser here. I'm going to use a 0.55mm drill bit, you can see here on a pin vise. And we've got our wire here as well, which is around about 20mm long, or just over. And we're just going to drill the hole in the centre of this, just to make sure that it's nice and clear. There is an indentation on one end or both ends, so it should make it a little bit easier. Okay, just popping out the other side now. That's all the way through to the other side. Give it a wiggle around just to make sure that it's all the way through. So it is now pre-drilled, ready for the brass to go in. So we're just going to work on this small lever here, which goes on the end of your steam reverser. So we'll need a bit of a tidy up, but you'll need a file and also a drill just to drill out the small hole to fit it on the end of the brass wire. So just going to use a flat file on the back just to clean up any debris of the supports. It's just in the middle of the arm really, there's nothing else really on there to clean up. A little bit underneath, but the rest of it looks not too bad. You need a 0.5mm drill and a pin vise. I'm just going to drill the hole in the end of the square block, which is just there. Doesn't need to be too deep, so just a mil or two. A little bit deeper if necessary. Not too far, as I say, don't want to go all the way through. That looks absolutely fine. Just going to get the steam reverser and make sure that fits on there not too badly. Okay, so that's all on. Looks absolutely fine. Just needs a bit of glue once finally in place. And what I'll do now is I'll set the length of this brass wire. It's about 2mm on this side and a little bit on the other, which I'll measure in just a moment once I place it all in position. So on the underside of the leader, you can see our bracket, which is just here, and I've smoothed off this part of the bracket where there was some slight moulding detail on the top of it. Not quite sure what that was, maybe some pipe work, I have no idea. And I have trimmed down the steam reverser, which is just here. I'm just going to rest that on the bracket. So it's about 2 millimeters this side sticking out from the reverser, and it's about 3 to 4 millimeters on this side. Then you need your little lever, and that should line up with this small sort of hinged bit down here, and it all sort of connects up. So if I just ease that into position, I'll take this off just to make it a bit easier for me. There we go. Just going to rest that in place. I'm not going to glue anything right now because it all needs a bit of a paint, and this is a bit loose at the moment, so if I just move that into place, you can see it all lines up quite nicely. So now I'm happy with all of this. As I say, it's best to check before you glue anything, so if you're doing this yourself, just double check. So I'm going to glue all this together and set the distance for the brass wire, glue the other lever into place, and then I'm going to spray paint it black and then highlight any areas I need to. And then what we'll do is we'll head behind it now that the front work has all been done, and I can add in the new Ashpan. And here is the painted version now in position. I just have to glue this into place with a little bit of glue along the top of the bracket, and I will also just highlight a few areas in terms of matte black and also some silver on the bit of brass that runs through both cylinders, and that'll be pretty much in position, ready for the next stage, which is the Ashpan, of course. So here we are with our 3D printed Ashpan, which replaces the old one, of course. Now, of course, the old one is held onto the underside of the chassis by 2 pins, which is similar to this, and they just need easing off a little bit of acetone on the underside of the old one. It should loosen it enough that you can just pop a small flat bladed screwdriver underneath and it should pop off. Now, the difference with this Ashpan, apart from having more detail on it, is 3D printed, so it is slightly more fragile. On this print, you can see there's a cutout on this side. Now this side faces the outside of the locomotive, and on this side faces the reverser side. It has the 2 pins, which I've already mentioned, and these do need trimming down slightly just to make sure they fit in the 2 holes which are left by the old pins. You may need to drill them out if they get stuck, the old pins off the Ashpan, that is. This will require some painting, so matte black or satin black, and maybe some weathering if you choose to do so. And you can fill this with material in terms of weight if you wish to add even more weight to it. But overall, I'm very happy with this part, and it's quite simple to fit, and certainly looks a lot better than the old one. So let's head over to the underside of the Bulleid leader, and we will now fit this part in place. So here we are on the completed underside of the Bulleid leader by KR Models. You can see the steam reverser in situ, just in front of the Ashpan or ash hopper there, which is resting nicely on the bracket which was there originally. We've got a little lever on the end there which activates all the little rods and bits and pieces, so it's a little bit more in keeping to what was actually there on the actual locomotive. Behind that we have the Ashpan, which is 3D printed and now in situ and painted in satin black, which does make quite a big improvement as to what was there originally. This kit is available only from Vectis 3D Models on the Made Me website, not from eBay, so please do not go and look on there expecting it to be there, because it won't be. There is one more item to come to detail the top of your Bulleid leaders, and that should be available in the next month or so. Hello YouTube, Matt here from Vectis 3D Models on YouTube. In this video I have another new small kit available for the Bulleid leader by KR Models, of course. This kit is to enhance and improve the appearance of the cab. Unfortunately the cab is a little bit neglected on this model, shall we say, because I doubt any kind of meaningful research took place to actually make it into anything half decent. So these two cab backs, which are quite simple to install, have been researched from photographs, and the one on the left has needed a little bit more guesswork than the one on the right. There just aren't many photos of cab number 1. There are quite a few of cab number 2, which is on the right, with the ladder going up to the water space. And we also have 2 new seats to replace the office chair, which is in the front of the cab as well. These are 3D printed, do need a little bit of care and also a little bit of talent to paint them into a pale green, and any highlights in terms of gauges or pipework, etc. With that said, let's get on with the actual modelling part and show you how to install these new back heads to the cab, as it were. So this is the cab you get with the leader, and it's held on by 2 clips which clip either side of the chassis. As you can see the office chair in the front, which is just bloody awful. And you can see just a simple back wall which has 2 doors in it, which it really shouldn't. Now this is glued in place, and you can see the two inserts there which push in from the top, and I think this is sort of held on with super glue, and you can see it's not very well glued in at all, which has just come out completely within my hands. So that's quite simply a wiggle it and it will fall off job, so pretty straightforward. So if I get rid of that, we don't need it anymore, and hopefully this is quite a straightforward replacement. It might need a little bit of filing just to fit it all in. Oh no, that's all good. So there you go, that's the new wall, not glued in obviously, but that fits within the inserts quite nicely, and all that needs to be done really is to be painted. So nice and simple, 5-minute job for you, apart from actually getting it off the model, of course, which probably takes considerably longer. But there we are, so it's as simple as that, and I'll replace the seat very shortly. So before moving on to the next area of interest, which is the seat, this is the colour of the paint I'm going to use to paint the back of the wall, or the cab in general. It's 70.974, so it's green sky, which is also a pale green and quite close to the colour that I've been told it is supposed to be in the cab. So This is what I'm going to use along with a few others like whites, blacks and possibly some silvers as well. And maybe a bit of brass around the actual gauge on the back of the wall there. So that's what I'm actually going to use to paint the cab. It's the closest thing that I could find without ordering quite a big pot of the stuff. So looking and continuing at the leader cab, we have here the new seats for the cab, which are a little bit more prototypical to what was actually in the cab. You can see this one still has all the supports on. I'm still a little bit unsure as to how I'm going to package these yet, but you can see they are very delicate and very small. The backs of the chairs are, as you can see, very thin and translucent. So I might have these trimmed down in terms of what supports are on them, but I also want to make sure they get to you in one piece. If they do get trimmed off, hopefully they'll appear something a little bit like this. This is what they look like. I've still left the 4 on the bottom just to trim, which should be quite easy and hopefully you won't lose them flying off around the room somewhere. So these should be a straight swap. I'll probably paint them while they're like this on the base of the supports, and so you can paint them up and decorate them before adding them to your cab. So looking at our cab base here, we can see the original chair, which certainly won't be there for much longer. Something more of akin to something out of Class 66 or something like that, so it certainly will not do. So if we're taking this off and it's glued underneath, you can see there's 2 holes on the base here. So there's one this side for a seat, and there's also one where the seat is actually glued just there. So you might need some acetone just to loosen the glue off, but looking at it, I don't think there's much glue on this anyway, so let's just see if we can prise it off with some pliers or some cutters gently around the base and just pull. Just going to grip around the base very gently and see if I can just ease it up or wiggle it around, see if we can break the bond between the plastics. And that came out very easily. It didn't snap, didn't break, it just loosened the bond. You can see the hole there, and still got the old seat there, which we don't need anymore. And we'll go on to adding the new seat after it's been painted. So returning to the base, you can see I've cleaned up the hole here and just sort of rounded it off slightly. These are square holes, which are not ideal really. The one on the base is sort of square, but also round as well. Unfortunately the print hasn't really done it that well on this one in particular, but I've made the hole slightly bigger with a small drill and just cleaned it up with a knife and a file, just to remove any excess glue which used to be still there, and I can just fit this seat loosely. So the engineer's seat, or the driver's seat, has been painted. Just a little bit of red primer, plastic primer, a bit black on the base, and some brown for, I imagine, which is the leather seat. From descriptions, this is basically what the seat would look like. Time to get these off the remaining supports and start to assemble the cab. So I'm just going to use a little bit of varnish on the base just to put the seat in place. I'm just using the varnish as a bit of a glue to secure it in place. You can use some tweezers if you wish. And this is why you can see I use varnish. I can't exactly hold these things. Right, there we go, that's the driver's seat in place. Just let the varnish go off for a little bit, and then I'll add the back wall to it as well. So just adding the back of the cab. You can use some proper glue, but I'm just going to use varnish as I did on the seat as well. So I'm just going to hold that reasonably tight and just slide these in to the slots on the back. So there we have it, one completed cab, as it were, cab number 2 on the right. Still yet to get cab number 1 end out and fit all the bits and pieces to it. But you can see basically the idea behind it, and it certainly does transform the look of the leader cab and looks a little bit more, shall we say, prototypical. So that concludes our part 1 of how to modify your KR Models Bulleid leader. All the parts I have shown here are available on the Vectis 3D Models Made Me page, and also most of them are available on the eBay page, or my personal eBay page, which you can all find links for in the description box below this video. On part 2 we'll be continuing the work, which will be on the body shell this time, and hopefully that video will be available in the next month or 2 at least. Thank you for watching, and I hope this has given you some insight into the errors as well as the modifications I am making, and hopefully will give you some inspiration to do your very own Bulleid project. Thanks for watching, and see you in part 2.